Welcome, speculators. So, checking in on one of the little companies I've watched for a long time. Used to be Rimfire Minerals, now Kiska Metals. They've the last update I did was a while ago. They had sold their main project to AER for about 2 million in shares, and after I made that update, the deal fell apart and they didn't get the project off. But since then, they found a new buyer. They got Brazil Resources to come in and offered about $1.6 million worth of shares and $10,000 a month for 15 months management agreement. So you could say 1.75 or so, a little less than they were trying to get out of the previous guys. But they withhold a royalty on the deal. So they get stock and a royalty, and this stock is probably easier to sell into the market over time than the previous company's stock. So you could argue this is a better deal. So they get into some of the details of the deal, and they also give an update on their company and what they're doing. They've got other projects that are happening. They've got Tech funding some drilling in British Columbia, and they've got First Quantum doing some surveying, mapping, and different things in South Central Alaska. And then they've got some other creative deals that sound like more of the kinds of deals you'd run from an office looking at databases and stuff, probably lower cost, but maybe big upside shot projects that they're working on. And then they announced some changes to the board. So the guys that were left from the old geoinformatics deal that they did, they moved on, and the geoinformatics guys and their backers were large shareholders, and so they've said they had about 25% of the company's shares, and so they've sold all those shares, and the main Kiska guys have bought some of them and found strategic people to buy the rest of them, so that large share overhang has been placed now, and I think that's quite nice. Better shareholders that are aligned with the business and what they're doing going forward is always a good thing. And then they just recently said, well, a month ago recently, I'm a little slow at updating you on Kiska, they closed this deal. So they got the shares and the deal's happening. They actually closed the deal with Brazil Resources. And so I was just looking at a couple other things on Kiska. A chart over time, they're towards their bottoms, 2 cents, 2.5 cents is their last trade. 2.8 or $2.9 million market cap with, what did I just say, 1.75-ish in shares and cash coming out of that project they just sold. And looking at their financials, I'll just take you to their balance sheet for a sec. They had at the end of June 30th, 2015, they had $1 million. So if you put that $1 million together with what they just sold this project for, they're trading it theoretically discount to liquidation values. They do have some liabilities in there, like 400 grand liabilities, and they are spending money. I was looking at this, like 600 or 700 grand every 3 months. It's like 200 grand a month. That goes quick. Hopefully they're able to stymie that, or maybe I'm missing something. Maybe a lot of it's shares or something, but that's chewing away on their cash. They're spending cash pretty quick. At least they have been in the past. And so hopefully they can change something, or else they're going to have a tough go of it. And so looking at CEO.ca's chat feature, there's a link to it on my website. You can go stock by stock and look at all their information. They scour data off of the SETI, which is like insider transactions, and they post them on the site. It's a little easier than working with SETI. SETI's not a very fun website to work with. And so looking at it, you've got a bunch of sales, like one of the old directors, senior officer, 220,000 shares, 284,000 shares sold from this guy. This guy bought 60,000 shares. Henry Urimek, I'm horrible at names, one of the main guys in there. Another 700,000 shares going away from Geologic Resource Partners. They were one of the over 10% security holders. That's one of the big backers of the old geoinformatics or geologics company in the past that they merged with and got a bunch of databases and projects out of. And them selling more, 1 million something shares. But then there's a nice one in there, 3 million shares being bought by one of the current directors, 600,000 shares being sold by Geologics again, 1.4 million shares being sold by Geologics. This is big blocks that they're getting off. 860,000 shares by Geologics going away, 5 million shares being sold by Geologics, 500,000 shares being bought by one of the officers of the company, 3.5 million shares being bought by the CEO. That's a big block of shares for these guys. And it goes on and on. Here's the Henry Aramic guy again buying 1 million shares. So just like the news releases are saying, the company, the main officers of the company are buying parts of that large shareholding block that's been selling, and hopefully they found some really good hands for the other shares. So they're cleaning up the books. Now if we go look at Brazil Resources and how they look at this purchase they just made off of Kiska, that's always something I like to do, is look at the news releases from both sides of the story, right? Two people tell two different stories. And so they're bragging about this purchase. They're getting 100% interest in the project. They're saying it's about $1.6 million in shares based on the date of the deal. They're talking about the qualities of the project. They're saying it's really low acquisition costs. They want to do more of this kind of stuff in this market. The agreement is they give 875,000 shares of Brazil Resources every 5 months for the next, while, that Kiska could then turn around and theoretically sell in the marketplace. And the project subject to 2.75% net smelter returns royalty over the entirety of the property, 2% net profit interest royalty on certain claims overlying the Whistler deposit. I'm not 100% sure Kiska gets those royalties because their news releases, at least just from quick recollection, didn't brag about retaining those royalties, but in the previous news releases when they tried to sell this project before, they were retaining royalties on the project. So I'm not sure if those royalties are due to someone else or Kiska gets all of, or part of those royalties. I would expect that Kiska gets those royalties, but I might be wrong on that. If you know the answer to that, I'd appreciate it if you leave a comment below to clarify for everyone else who's watching and listening. And then, they just go in to brag about the Whistler project that Kiska used to brag about in the past as their main flagship project. So there's a lot of good merits to that project. It's just a hard market to go work that project in and make a go of it. And looking at Brazil Resources share price recently since they've done the deal, I mean, it went down some, it went up some, and it's back to about where it was. So I'd say the value of it's about the same. They've got a $44 million market cap, where the previous company that Kiska tried to sell this to, if I remember right, was like a $2 million market cap or something silly. So this is a lot better market to go sell that project into when you're trying to cash in shares than the other one. And I'd say this is a better deal than what they had before because of that. So that's just an update on Kiska Metals, KSK, trading in the Canadian markets. If you're interested in more updates from me on Kiska Metals, please hit the subscribe button. If you are following Kiska either way, I'd recommend you go to Kiska's website and sign up to their news releases and updates there. You'll be the first one to get them. And thanks for listening. If you like these kinds of updates, please hit the thumbs up below. And questions, comments, clarification, something more, or correcting what I said, please put it in the comments below. I'd love to learn from what you have to say. Thank you for listening.